Hey guys, okay, so this is the Friday Appreciate Workshop, and we have a nice holiday weekend coming up, as well as a full moon in Sagittarius coming next week. And so I thought I'd give you a head start to learn a little bit about what that full moon in Sagittarius means. As well as some other things that might be going on energetically for you right now. So one of the things that we talked about 2 weeks ago with the new moon in Taurus was that there was a Uranus-Taurus conjunct going on. And what that's kind of happening for a lot of us, you guys may have been noticing this past week that you just felt like an adjustment in your vibration. I don't know. It was really interesting because I had been experiencing it for myself this week, where I noticed myself being effortlessly in my joy more, effortlessly in gratitude more, being really present, to relaxing and letting things flow. A completely new state of working and of living without really any adjustments to anything that was going on with me. I ended up having a sinus infection, and so I was a little bit down for the count this week. And so maybe that was oftentimes when our vibration is raising and when we're adjusting, we get sick, or we tend to want to sleep more. So totally normal. That's probably what was going on for me. But so one of the things that comes with this, and I just want to give this little side note before we dive into the full moon in Sagittarius, and the theme that I felt called to share with you guys around this full moon, which has to do with both energies, is really the release of victimhood. But what goes along with this new raising of vibration, and with any of this work, I know if you guys have been following me for a while, you probably have had all these massive leaps of consciousness. You probably operating in your life in a different way than you did even 6 months ago. And so what happens with that is that our inclinations to other people or activities around us shift. You know, a lot of people will say that they stop wanting to eat certain foods, or they stop wanting to drink as much alcohol, or they stop being able to hang out with certain people. Certain conversations become harder for them to bear. I know that this is definitely true for me. I have like shifted a lot of the people that I talk to and a lot of the people that I spend time with, because it no longer feels good to be in a low-level conversation. It doesn't feel good to especially be in a ton of conversations that feel really victim-y, that feel really low vibe, you know, essentially. And so just noticing that, and I call that to your awareness, because if it's happening and you know why it's happening, it's less painful, right? It's less confusing, and you can really embrace this new vibration, this new level that you're functioning at, with a lot of joy, right? Because it's great. You should be feeling more joy. You should be flowing more and watching things effortlessly kind of manifest and work its way out as you are surrendering to this higher state of consciousness that's coming for you. That's kind of coming like a wave for all of us. And so for those of us that are specifically sensitive, and those of us that are doing the work, like you, if you're watching this, I'm sure you're really going to feel it. And so that kind of goes hand in hand. You know, full moons are always a time of endings, a time of kind of completion. So it could be a time of manifestation. It could be a time of something that you've been kind of setting the intention for and wanting to happen for a while, finally happening. And it could also be a time of something really being ready to release, and really being ready to just be sent along its way. So one of the things that I specifically felt called to share with you today around releasing something, because as you know, for those of you that watch these workshops on Appreciate, I make all these workshops, even if they're the new moon or the full moon, the themes of them are evergreen. So regardless of whether or not you're watching this during this week or you're watching this 2 years from now, if you're struggling with victimhood, this will be a great workshop to help you really release it. Because what happens is, so Sagittarius is the truth teller, right? It's the kind of philosopher, the inventor of the zodiac, the aiming your arrow and getting clear and pointing it. And so when we get really clear, when we get clear on who we are, when we get clear on what we believe, when we get clear on what our truths are to us, then our tolerance for victimhood goes down within us, right? But that doesn't mean it doesn't exist, because victimhood in all of us is formed usually from some sort of trauma growing up, whether it was what we kind of define as, a big trauma event or a small trauma event. It could literally be, someone yelling at you at school because you took an apple too soon. Or, I'm reading this book right now. I think it's called Leaving the Past in the Past or something like that. It's a fascinating book about the different levels of trauma that really affect us. That's so often, so many of these traumatic memories that really plague people for years and affect how they go about their lives are the most mundane things. When someone that has been raped or, God forbid, had any sort of that kind of level of trauma or been abused as a child physically, something like that, then we expect, we take a certain care of that person, hopefully in a healthy situation, and we make sure they get the help they need. We make sure they get the therapy they need and to really resolve that situation within us. But all of us, on some level, have memories that cause a traumatic experience. And it's kind of those things that all of us have, right? Even if you had the most amazing parents and the most amazing teachers and all of that, it could be the simplest little comment or the simplest little, nope, you can't have dessert before dinner or whatever it was, that as like a little kid, we make mean something else, and it brings us back there. Whatever that unresolved situation was, whatever that minor, trauma memory that we have, it activates our victimhood. And so all of us have a relationship to victimhood in some way. And depending on where you're at, depending on your coping mechanisms, may depend on how it comes out for you. But it's very common that I find usually there's at least one area of your life where you're like more of a victim than the rest. Right? And so I think this full moon gives us an opportunity to really, a full moon is the brightest moon, right? And so we often say that it's like the flashlight. It's kind of shedding light into that dark corner that nobody wants to go into. So when it sheds light into that darkened corner that nobody wants to go into, we actually get to see what is going on there. And so I really feel like this full moon is going to show us a truth about ourselves, a belief that we've held. And, it's going to ask us to excavate some of our victimhood or to learn how to dance with it, right? We may never be able to 110% fully excavate our victim tendencies. It's part of being a human. But if we know when it comes up, if we can call it when it comes up, if we can hear it when it comes up, then we can develop a strategy, right? We can develop a strategy to really flip it on ourselves. And so I really believe that this full moon is crystallizing, is showing us those truths, showing us those beliefs. We still have a lot of this Taurus energy, which is showing us what we value, right? What do we value in our lives? What do we value about ourselves? What do we value about the people around us? And so really asking ourselves, okay, where do I have that tendency to not be empowered, to not be kind of like that, that Sagittarius that's aiming his arrow, right? And going forth and shooting that arrow in a powerful, directed, intentional way. What are the areas where I'm like, I don't know what to do. I'm just a lost little creature, right? Because we all have those areas, right? And for some of us, it might be romance. For some of us, it might be money. For some of us, it could be our career or, anything, right? We all have these different areas, and for whatever reason, they're triggered. So really taking a look at that. And, you know, I just want you to notice what's coming up for you right now. Like if you mentally kind of go through different places in your life right now, in your head, and just start thinking, what areas do I feel? And sometimes the contrast is helpful, right? So what areas do you feel really empowered in? What areas do you feel like you're going to change? I find with a lot of my clients, they'll feel, let's say, like more empowered towards business, towards career, where there may be, you know, moments of victimhood where they can fall into the woe is me, or like everything's happening to me, it's not working out for me, I don't know why is the universe against me, you know, they'll have those flashes of that. But the majority of the time they'll feel like they can get into action around their career. They'll feel like they have, you know, they are empowered to really shift something, that they, you know, can shift their thoughts, that they can shift their words around it, that they can take some logical aligned action steps around it. And I find when the career is strong, often the romantic relationships is the area where we fall into victimhood, where we feel like, oh, I don't know how I can find a man. I don't know how to, you know, have a great relationship. And we feel like it's when we feel like something is kind of like this big, unmanageable cloud, right? And so finding like, is there an area in your life where you feel like things are more of an unmanageable cloud than others? And then really, really going into that and asking yourself, what is my true belief in this area? If I feel like romantic relationships is a cloud and that's where I fall into my victimhood, what is my true belief around that area? Like deep, deep down, what is my true belief and what is the false belief that I'm allowing to run the show in that area? So let's say for that example, my true belief is that what's meant for me can't miss me and what misses me isn't meant for me. That's my true belief around romantic relationships, that my person will show up and they will be calibrated for me and I will show up in my best self and we'll figure it out. I don't believe that I have to be a fully self-actualized, you know, Buddha to get married or to find a partner, right? What could a false belief in that area? A false belief in that area could be there are no good men left. You know, men in LA are horrible, you know, all sorts of things like that, right? And when we look at those beliefs and we look at even how many times we think it and how many times we say things like that, I am like such the police in that area when I'm around women and they talk about, oh, there's no good men, or like, but men in LA are terrible and stuff like that. And I'm like, don't wave your wand at something you don't want to be true. There are plenty of great men wherever you are. There are plenty of great partnerships wherever you are. But if you keep waving that wand of victimhood of I'm just helpless, there's nobody's out there, right? Then your wish will come true. And so I think it's really important for us this week to reflect on what are the areas where we're waving our wand with like that tinge of victimhood, that tinge of helplessness, where we actually don't want that. We don't want to command that. We don't want that to come true. And, you know, a thing that was really powerful for me to hear around this too was one of my girlfriends, one of my dear, dear best friends, struggled with an autoimmune condition for years. She still has it, but it was very, very, very severe when she was in her early teens and all the way up until like her early 20s. And we were talking about it once, and I was asking her, like, what shifted? What happened that finally kind of like made the difference, that shifted you from being in this place where nothing was really working, none of these treatments you were trying were working, to all of a sudden, you know, now she's like this gorgeous self-love, chronic illness, like advocate, and just like radiant, vibrant, incredible woman doing amazing work in the world that, you know, has such health and has such radiance just vibrating in her. And she really told me that it was literally the day that she decided that she had the power, that she like took her health into her own hands. And when I say that, took her health into her own hands, it's like took her health into her hands, but in God's hands too. And And then started, through that relationship making changes. And I think in my experience, that's been a big thing. Where the second I decide, it's that moment when we kind of say we're taking it into our own hands. And I know we're all very spiritual here. And so when we take it into our own hands, it's also kind of taking it into our relationship with God and the universe and love and source and our higher self as well. So don't misunderstand me by saying taking it into your own hands means that you're manipulating it or you're controlling it. That is absolutely not the energy around it. It's the energy of saying, I'm not a victim of this. I'm choosing right now, I'm not a victim of this. I'm going to take this into my own hands, and I'm going to co-create the reality I want and the truth that I really believe in my deep in my heart in this situation with God, with the universe, with source, right? I mean, in my business, I can't even tell you, every time I go into victimhood around my business, like things fall apart. And it's almost like, is it the chicken or the egg, the chicken or the egg? Maybe the business starts falling apart, but then I go into victimhood and then I drive down into the ditch. And in those moments, it's when I decide to really take it back into my own hands, when I really decide, hey, I am a powerful creator of my own reality. My words are wands. My thoughts do create things. And I have a beautiful dialogue with my body's wisdom, with God, with the universe, with love, with my highest self, where I can get that insight into what the next aligned action is, where I can take that aligned action, where I don't have to be, frantically running around doing all these different things to try to make it happen, because you could be in a lot of action and still be in victimhood. And you won't get yourself out of that hole. You won't get yourself up onto that steady ground until you really make that decision that you are the survivor, you are the warrior, right? In my practical magic training, we really evoke the energy of Wonder Woman and that kind of like Amazon warrior. And all of the things that we're doing in that training are really to remind us that we have the power. We are powerful co-creators of our lives in every single area. There is no area that is an exception. And that we have the power to shift our perception around any area. We have that power to ask God, ask Holy Spirit, ask the universe, ask love, ask our soul, ask our highest self, ask our grandma, right? Ask whatever that higher power of our own understanding is to help us in seeing things differently. And so that is the first tool I want you to use on this full moon around the areas that you see yourself falling into victimhood on. And I'd like you to get really clear with yourself, because when we really get things on paper, when we really write it out, when we really see our own shit, right? Pardon my French. When we see our own shit, then it is so much more powerful for us to shift it. When we actually look at, oh, wow, I've been in total victimhood around these extra 10 pounds. And I've literally bought into the story and propagated the story with my thoughts and with my words that nothing is working, that I'm just stuck with this weight, that doesn't matter if I exercise, it doesn't matter if I eat healthy, all this stuff. And really looking at how we've actually authored our reality around that. And that even if you've been eating healthy and you've been working out and you're like, well, I've been following the keto diet, or I've been doing paleo, or I went vegan, or whatever you did, even if you've done some earthly action, if your thoughts and your words around it are still in victim mode, you won't see a change. You can be, one of the advice I think a lot of coaches give around dating is always like, well, just get on the apps, just go on multiple dates, and you'll get to the swing of it, and that doesn't work if your mentality hasn't shifted. If your mentality is still in victimhood, it doesn't work, Because you can go on a date every single night of the week, but if you're still laughing with your girlfriends at happy hour and saying all these men in LA are terrible, or like none of them want to commit, you know, or it's so hard to find a man, and I'm gonna end up as like an old cat lady. That's the reality you're creating. And that is, you know, I think sometimes when we hear the word victimhood, we think about maybe like someone like laying on their couch eating ice cream, watching like endless episodes of the same Netflix documentary. And sometimes, you know, that can be a very real manifestation of that on multiple levels, right? Of really just kind of like kind of quote unquote giving up. But like, but oftentimes I think the most pervasive form of victimhood is that form of victimhood where oftentimes we are doing things in our lives. We are actually going to the gym and eating healthy. We're actually going on those kind of duty dates, so to speak. We are actually trying to work on our business, right? We are trying to get new clients. We are trying to do all the things. So maybe on the earthly realm, we're doing active things. But if on the mental realm and on the speaking realm, we're still speaking and thinking into existence the reality of victimhood, that will overwhelm your good actions any day. So I think this Sagittarius new moon, that's connecting us really back to our truth, connecting us to our beliefs, our real beliefs, not our bullshit beliefs, right? Like our real beliefs. And deep down, you know, it's one thing if you recognize that you may need a belief change. Maybe you're at a place right now in your life and, you know, sending you so much love if this is you, where you really don't believe that there's anyone out there for you, where you really don't believe that perfect health is possible, where you really don't believe that financial success is possible. Then let's look at that. Then I invite you to use this moon to release that belief, to release this belief that you look at and maybe you're looking and you're like, man, Cass, that is honestly what I believe right now. And I know it's not a good belief, and I know it's not a belief that I necessarily want to keep up, but it's honestly where I'm at right now. And you know what? Great. Be honest with yourself. Know where you're at, because you can't change until you accept where you're at. And so if that's where you're at, say, okay, right now, dear God, universe, source, higher self, soul, whoever you want to talk to, right now, I have this belief that I'm never going to find someone. Insert whatever your belief is there. And I really want to see things differently. I really want to see this through your eyes, through the eyes of love, through the eyes of truth with a capital T. And I invite you. You're saying, I'm giving up this belief that I know isn't serving. And you can do this whether this is like a deeply held belief, or maybe you have like on a really deep level, you really do feel like there is someone out there for you. You really do feel that you're going to meet your person. You really do feel that you're capable of perfect health. You really do believe you're capable of being financially successful. But you have a surface level belief that you've been buying into, perhaps, that's contrary to that. So you can use that on that level of belief as well, and to say, you know what, right now, I know, like, dear God, dear universe, I know in my heart that I am meant to be extraordinarily prosperous for my good work. But right now, I'm really struggling to release my belief that I'm always going to struggle, or whatever it is, right? And I need you to help me see things differently. I welcome you to help me see things differently. Show me the truth with a capital T. Show me this through your eyes, through infinite intelligence, right? And let's be in that prayer. Let's be in that ask for the next few days, and getting really clear on what are those beliefs that we need to excavate that are putting us into a state of victimhood, that are draining our power, that are draining our energy. And let's close the chapter with this full moon on those beliefs. And let's allow the truth that's already inside of us to arise in place of them. So that is my intention for you this full moon. And as always, I hope you join us in the Facebook group. Let us know, what are the beliefs that you're really releasing with this full moon in Sag? And what are the truths that are coming up and arising in you, in your soul, that you really know to be true? I love you, and I hope you have a happy full moon.